Well, good afternoon. I'm Paul Stanier, one of the directors here at PS Tech, your IT experts, and I'd like to welcome you to another one of our Lunch and Learn episodes where we're going to be sharing with you tips and insights on how to get more from your IT investments. So last month's episode was one of our best performing in the terms of registration and views on YouTube as well. So that topic of Outlook must have resonated with many people. Now, if you haven't managed to subscribe to our YouTube channel yet and get notified when we post new videos, including these Lunch and Learn episodes, well, then I'll share the channel name and the address you can go to do that at the end of this session. So today we're going to focus on the topic of smart data collection. So if you think up any questions through the presentation today's lunchtime, pop them into the Q&A below. We won't answer them during the session, but I promise we'll get in touch afterwards. So let's get started. We have to collect data often, don't we? For example, are we employing a new member of staff? Are we asking customers for their feedback? Are we collating information for a report? There's data required for all sorts of things, and that the number of examples we could relate is endless. However, that data quite often, once we've got it, it ends up on a spreadsheet somewhere, and we store it in documents or on the server or in SharePoint, and then there might be some actions required afterwards, or maybe not. And if there are actions, well, it's a manual task, isn't it? Going back through that data, sorting it all, and working out what needs to be done. And that was how we were trained back in the day, how to deal with these things. But here in 2023, there are better ways to collect, to manage, to visualize, and then make that data work for you, saving you time and improving your efficiency and productivity. What am I talking about? Well, it's one word: automation. So today we're going to look into 3 tools that come with your Microsoft 365 subscription that help you do that. Collect data, manage the data, visualize the data to make things clearer, and have technology perform actions based on that collected data for you. So we're going to look at the tools in your Microsoft 365 subscription. They are Microsoft Forms, Microsoft Power Automate, which used to be called Flow, and Microsoft SharePoint, specifically SharePoint Lists. And then we're going to very briefly look at Microsoft Fabric, which used to be called Power BI. So let's quickly visualize what this looks like. I'm going to present just a couple of slides just to get things moving. Okay, so automating your data collection and working smarter. So we've talked about Microsoft Forms, haven't we? And this is the first tool we're going to use to get started with the collection of data. We're going to create in our live demonstration a simple contact form for our website. Now, once the form is completed, Microsoft Forms will collect the responses. And then we want to collate this information so that it's centrally accessible to others in the business and can be acted upon. So we're then going to use Power Automate to collect those responses and some additional information that we're going to store inside a SharePoint list. Then we're going to go one step further. We're going to use the automation to help us a bit. So if the person contacting us through our contact form requires extra help, well, we can escalate that with an email notification. So with this expanded workflow, we're going to have a look at how to do that as well. So let me just briefly describe the 3 tools before we jump into the live demonstration. So the first tool we're going to look at is Microsoft Forms. Now, Microsoft Forms is an online tool where you can create a series of questions that can collect data in different formats. So you can collect text, dates, choices, ratings, votes, and much more. And then that form can be published either internal to your business or externally to a wider audience, the internet. And then you share that form with people through a unique link or by embedding it into a web page. Microsoft Forms then collects the responses for you. Now, there are many use cases for an online form. Here's just a handful of examples. So for instance, if we are in the HR department, we might have an onboarding and offboarding form so that we make sure we collect all the details about the person joining our business or the details about when they leave. We may want an employee feedback form to see how things are going, perhaps about well-being or other topics. If we're in a finance team, we may set up a form to collect expense reports or purchase and requisition orders and so on. Really, the list is limited by your imagination. You can create forms for many different things. So what happens after forms? Well, we talked about SharePoint lists. Well, what are they? Well, if you didn't see our Lunch and Learn on common questions answered about SharePoint, look out for that on our YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube after today's session, well, click the link in the description below and you'll be able to watch that. But we didn't touch on the topic of lists, though, even though it was an excellent session. So we often use Excel to collect data. You can see a little animation on screen here. Excel is a super powerful tool, but when it comes to publishing that information that we've got in Excel to others, Excel is not always the best tool. A SharePoint list allows multiple people to access the data, visualize it better, and then collaborate on that data. And then with Power Automate, you can get the technology to act on certain data that's been entered or changed. For example, an approval email could be sent to a manager when a request is put on the form or the list for access to an IT system, for example. You'll see some use case examples shortly when we create our list for our particular project we're going to do. And these lists, they can be published into Microsoft Teams as well. That's something worth remembering. Well, probably the biggest question right now is, what is Power Automate? Well, it sounds complicated, doesn't it? But it's not. So on screen now are two simple examples that we're actually going to create today. And they're simply a set of actions based on triggers and data. So if this happens, then do that. So it's a simple step-by-step workflow that can act based on triggers and also conditions. Now, a trigger could be that someone submitted a form. A condition could be that someone has completed a form, but they've also selected a specific choice within that form that may require our fast attention. And they're the scenarios we're going to look at today. Now, Power Automate does not just work with data within Microsoft 365. As you can see on screen here, it connects with many different online tools, Dropbox, Calendly, different CRMs, Google, and other tools within the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Just a few points about Power Automate. The version of Power Automate that comes with your Microsoft 365 subscription, well, that is the free version. Okay, there are premium editions which allow you to connect to some of the external premium apps. They let you do more in a way of automation and quantity as well as flexibility. So if you find that the free version is not quite reaching the requirement you have, talk to us and we can help you navigate the different licenses that are available. Okay, so let's now jump into our live demonstration. We're going to create a simple contact form that can be embedded into a website. We're then going to collect the responses from that form and use automation to store them in a SharePoint list. And then finally, based on how the person completed the form, we'll add some conditional logic to send an email notification if a certain option is selected. So let's get started. I'm going to jump over to our virtual computer. Now I'm going to go through this quite quickly. Don't worry if you're trying to make notes or copy what I'm doing. The recording will be available in a few days on YouTube and on our website. There you can pause, rewind, and you'll find the link to that in the end of our session today. So let's get started. I'm going to open up Microsoft Edge, which takes me here to my work feed. And I've already added some shortcuts at the top here for Forms, SharePoint, and Automate. So you can do that yourself with the little plus button here and create your own shortcuts. So let's click on Forms, which is where we're going to get started. So Microsoft Forms, this is what it looks like when you get to it. And if you haven't got any forms, we're looking at the recent list here, and you'll see some templates that are available here on screen. I'm sorry if my mouse pointer is a little bit small. There are templates you can use when creating forms. So there's a few suggestions here. If I click on View All, there are other templates that are available as well. So we'll go back here. You'll see as well, we've got recent, My Forms, and forms that are shared with me, which tells me that I can actually share my forms with others as well. And you can favorite forms as well. So let's click on the New Form button at the top left here, and that will get us started. Now, when we start a new form, there's a little toolbar that runs across the top here. So you'll see here, for instance, questions. These are the questions we're going to add to our form. Responses, these are the responses we've had to our questions. We can preview our form with the preview button here. At the moment, there's nothing on there. And you can choose whether you're looking at computer or mobile versions as well, which is quite useful. We can change the style and the colors and the theme. You can upload your own custom themes as well with the plus button here. There are some suggestions here you can use with regards to what things may look like. And if you go view all down here, you'll see there's a lot more options as well. We're going to leave things fairly default for the purpose of today's demonstration. On the three dots here, you can collaborate or duplicate the form. So if you want others to have the ability to edit the form after you've created it, that's a good thing to use. Under settings, there's quite a lot of different things you can set in here. Probably the most important one is who can fill in the form. So at the moment, all forms are set to only work internal to your business. If you want a form to be accessible outside of your business, you have to select anyone can respond. You can also put time limits around when the form is live for, how long people have to fill out the forms, shuffle the questions, and you can customize the thank you message and so on. So it's worth playing around with those different settings. Right, so what we're going to do is now we're going to create our form. So probably the best way to start is actually a plan. What questions are we going to put onto our form? Well, I've created a simple document a minute ago, which is my plan for my form. So I know what I'm doing. I'm not freestyling. So on our contact form, I'm going to, if I just make this a bit bigger, here we go. I'm going to have these fields: name, email, what department is the person trying to contact, and what's the nature of their inquiry. And we can add a subtitle in forms. So to give the person completing the form some options and some instructions as well. So enter your name here, enter your email address here, choose a department you wish your inquiry, pardon the spelling mistake, to be directed to, and enter your inquiry. Okay, and then this is going to be a choice. So I've put my choices in there. I'm going to allow people to contact my sales team, my support team, and my finance team. And I want an action. If the support is chosen, I want that email notification. Okay, so let's just move this to one side. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Windows 11 snap feature here. I'm going to snap that there, and we're going to snap our form here to the left and go back to our questions. So let's create our contact form. I'm going to give it a title, contact form, and here we are. I'm going to put a simple description in there. And my first question is asking me, what do I want to choose? So my field is going to be text here for name and email. So I'm going to choose text. And the question is, enter your name. And I can copy my subtitle and just paste that. Okay. Right, not let me paste in there. Okay, that's fine. So let's open up another question. Straight away, I can enter here choice. And I'm on question number 2 here. So this is where I'm going to enter. No, I want this to be a text field. We delete that. So you can see, as you make mistakes, it's quite easy to correct them. Hit plus again, and I'm going to choose a text field. And this one's going to be email. And my subtitle, which I've just recalled, is here. So I'm going to put the subtitle here, enter your email address here. And we'll do the same with our question above. So you can go back to that, click the 3 dots, subtitle. And then we're going to say enter your name here. Okay. So question number 3 is going to be a choice. So I'm going to choose choice here. And my question is going to be, what department do you require? So I'm just going to paste that in there. Not quite sure why we're getting some weird effects here as I'm doing the paste. Okay. And my subtitle, I'm going to type this: choose the department you wish your inquiry to be directed to. Okay, so my option 1 is going to be sales. My option 2 is going to be support. You notice I'm hitting the tab key here to move between fields. I'm going to add a third option, and this is going to be finance. Okay, that's great. I'm not going to allow multiple answers. I only want them to choose one. And my final question is going to be a text field here. In fact, I'm going to make this what's called a long answer. And this is going to be your inquiry. And then what I'm going to do is just copy that text, paste that into the subtitle. Actually, I'll just muck that up as well. There we go. There we go. Right. So I've got my 4 questions now. If I just preview that so it looks a bit tidier, you can now see that we've created that. Enter your name here, enter your email address here, what department would you like to contact, and your inquiry. Okay, and then the person can click submit. So that's nice and easy. We've got our form. So let me just maximize that. And we're going to go back here because we were previewing. I'm going to hit collect responses. And when you hit the collect response button, it makes the form live. And we've already set in the settings here, anyone can respond. But if we had not set that, it would have been select anyone, any people inside my business can respond. And on the right-hand side here, you'll see a link to the form. You can make that shorter as well, which is a bit friendlier if you're going to pop that into an email. You've also got the option here to send an email invitation to people through Outlook or Teams. You've got a QR code, which you can publish and into various documentation that you want to distribute. And there's embed. So if you were putting this contact form on your website, you would copy this code here and your web developer would paste that in the right place on your site. But for the purpose of our demonstration, we're just going to copy the link here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new private browsing window. I'm just going to paste that link in there. And you'll see there's my form. So let's complete that. My name is John Smith. My email is john@test.com. I want to contact the sales department. And what's my inquiry? I need a price list. Okay, and then submit. So if I was John Smith, that's how I would complete that form. Nice and easy, and that would appear on my website if I embedded it that way. So what's happened to that information in the form? Well, if I just minimize this browsing window here and close that, if I now go to the responses, you'll see there's a 1 next to it. We've got a response already. And straight away, I can see I've got 1 response. It took 17 seconds to complete. And I can see the latest response was John Smith. So the way this is presented is quite high level. If you want to see it in a bit more detail, we click on View Results. And this is where we can see that same information. And if I click on Open Excel, it downloads an Excel file that I can open up. Here it is, and here's my form submission. So we get the time it was submitted and the date as well, and also the details that the person completed. And there was their choice, which department they wanted sales. It puts that in based on the choice that they selected. But we don't want it like this. We want it in a SharePoint list. We want others to access this form. So how do we make that happen? Well, we need to create the list first of all. So I'm going to jump back to my web browser. And if I go back to, just bring up a new tab here, I'm going to jump into SharePoint. And I'm going to, when you create the list, you have to embed the list into an existing SharePoint site. Well, at least that's what's recommended. So we've got one here called Operations we're going to use for that purpose. So I'm going to jump into the Operations site. And from here, it's very simple to create the list. We just click on New and we choose List. The other way you can do this is if you go into Site Contents here on the left-hand side. And if you had lists, you would see them listed here in the contents. And then from here, we can also create new list as well. So we're going to create new list. And just like forms, you get lots of templates you can use for your lists. And here's some examples of how you can use SharePoint lists. So an issue tracker, employee onboarding, an event itinerary, an asset management, a recruitment tracker. There's lots of different templates you can get started with in here. If you click on one of these, it gives you a quick preview what that might look like. And you can see here, just by scrolling around, we can see what that list is going to look like. It will be blank, obviously, but the column names and the way they're formatted, the template would apply that for us. However, what we're going to do, we're going to create a blank list. Okay, so I'm going to click blank list, and we're going to call this here contact form submissions. And we could put a description if we wanted. Show the site in navigation. That will make it appear here on the left-hand side, and click create. So now we have an empty list, and you can see it listed here in the site navigation, contact form submission. So anyone else that's got access to this SharePoint site will have access to contact form submissions as well. So you can already start to feel the power that's coming from creating this list. So at the moment, we just have one column, which is title. You can't easily remove that, but don't worry, we're going to use that in a minute. Let's add the other columns that we need. And just remind ourselves, what were they? They were name, email, department, and inquiry. So very simply, we just click the add column link here, and we get very similar to forms. What type of data is going to be in this column? Well, this is just going to be text. Next. And what are we going to call it? We're going to call it name. And you can change some of the criteria around what type of data is in here from here as well. We're just going to keep it as a single line of text. Save. And we've now got the name column. If I add another column, we'll keep that as text as well. I'm going to call this one email. Save. We're going to add another column now. And this one, if you remember, go back to our spreadsheet, was a choice. We want to give the option of sales, support, and finance. So we're going to choose the choice option. And this is going to be department. I can put a description if I want to, and it's already set to choice. We're going to name these choices sales, support, and finance to match the choices that we had in our form. And you can change the colors as well on these. So if you prefer your sales team to be yellow, you can do that. If you prefer your financing to be blue, you can do that. Okay, let's click save. And then the final one, let's add a final column, which was their actual inquiry. So we're going to choose multiple lines of text, because if you remember in the form, we allowed for long answers. Next, and this was the actual inquiry, and then save. Excellent. We've now got a list ready to go. You can manually add entries to a list. So if you wanted to publish this list for a different purpose, you can do so by clicking the new button. You can now complete the list here. So let's put in Fred, email fred@test.com. And there's my choice working. He's contacting the finance team. I need a copy invoice, like so. And you can add attachments as well. And that's what it looks like on screen. Now you can create other columns that are not related to the form if you wanted ways of tracking this inquiry and have your own choices and statuses and dates and things like that. You can also resize these columns, and you can drag them around as well. So you can reposition them on the grid here, like so. You don't have to enter by pressing the new button either. You can edit in grid view, which is just like using Excel pretty much. And here we can now type into the boxes that we want. Okay, so we said we'd come back to title in a minute, so don't worry too much about that right now. So we've got our form, we've got our list. How do we get the form entries into our list? Well, this is where Power Automate comes in. So back to our landing page here, we're going to navigate to Power Automate. Now, if you're wondering where these shortcuts are, you can use the app picker from office.com, and you'll see here I've got Power Automate, but I can't see forms, so I will click on all apps. And in office.com and down here, here's forms, several others are available to us as well. If you can't see by looking, there's SharePoint, there's Power Automate. You do have a search box as well, so you can search for apps up in the box up here. So we're going to jump to Power Automate. Now, Power Automate used to be called Flow. So you'll see the word flow mentioned recurringly throughout. This is the landing page for Power Automate. And down the left-hand side here is where you get started. So I just want to show you, first of all, is the create button. That's like new automation or new flow. We're going to click that in a moment. There are templates. We'll look at those in a second. And the My Flows area is where all your previous automations are stored. So if we click on templates, you'll see here there are literally hundreds of templates that are available that have been pre-built by people. So for an example, let's say, for instance, I want to save all my attachments from my emails into my OneDrive. If I just type the word attachment and press enter, straight away, I get some suggestions. So I can save outlook.com email attachments to OneDrive. So every time an email hits my inbox, Automate will move the attachment to a folder in my OneDrive automatically for me. So if I can then keep my inbox clear, I can delete that email and it'll occupy space in there. I can do the same. I can connect and save my attachments to Dropbox if I'm using that instead. Or I can save, it connects to Gmail. I can save attachments sent to my Gmail account to my Dropbox, and so on. So there's quite a lot here, actually, that you can do just by searching for the right word. If you're using Calendly, for example, there's a whole bunch of integrations here or automations that work with Calendly. Now, we're going to create one from scratch because the tools that we need are pretty much here. So I'm going to click on Create. And from here, you've got Start from Blank. So you can create an automated cloud flow. And if you're using the desktop version of Power Automate, you can create automations that work on your desktop computer and so forth. But I'm actually going to use a template to create my automation. So I'm going to search here for forms. And the one I'm actually interested in is this one here, record form response in SharePoint. Now, as you can see, there are many other templates for forms. So I'm going to click on this one. Okay, so the first screen you'll see is really telling me what app am I connecting to another app. So I'm connecting Microsoft Forms to Forms and SharePoint here. Now, to do that requires permissions. So down the bottom here, we can see this flow will connect to Microsoft Forms and Microsoft SharePoint. And here's the user account it's going to connect with, which will work fine because John has access to Forms, John also has access to the operations SharePoint site. But if we were trying to connect to someone's mailbox or a different SharePoint site John doesn't have access to, then with the 3 dots here, you can add different connections with different credentials. So just be aware of that. And when you create your flows, they appear in My Flows, so that you are the owner, you have permissions to change them. It is connecting to objects within the apps that you're connecting to with your permissions. So we're just going to click continue here because this works perfectly for us. Okay, so the template has already created this flow for us because we picked a template, which was nice. If we didn't choose a template, we'd be looking at a blank workspace here. And we can drag this around as well just by clicking and holding our left button and move around. So you can zoom in and out and have quite a wide view of what's actually going on inside your flow. Now, on the right-hand side here, you'll notice we've got Microsoft Copilot. Now, Copilot is a new feature inside Microsoft 365. This is automation and AI working together. So you can ask a question in plain English with the right prompt and ask Copilot to make a modification to your flow. So if you're not feeling very comfortable or confident in editing these things, the AI can help you. Now I'm going to close that because AI is a whole topic in its own right, and we're going to do this manually. So you can see here we've got 3 steps in our automation. When a new response is submitted, get the response details, create an item in, then you've got the SharePoint icon there. So let's click on our first step or our first action. And it's asking us, because it's a Microsoft Forms action, it's asking us what is the form that we're going to be collecting data from. So I can see here, I've got a form called contact form. And if you notice up there in my browser bar, that's exactly what it's called. So we're going to click on that. So we've now connected to the contact form inside Forms. Now, get response details. We're going to click on this one. So what was the form we're getting the response details from? It's the contact form. Okay, and don't change anything else. And now we're going to create an item. Click on that. Now, what are we actually connecting to? It's a SharePoint site, and it's already asking us here, telling us here an example. When we click here, there are different SharePoint sites visible. We're going to click connect to operations. And when we click in here, it will look at what lists are available. And we've got the contact form submissions list that we've created a moment ago. Let's click on that. And then if we click on the advanced parameters here, I'm interested in the name, email, department, and inquiry. Okay. So if I click into name, we want to tell the automation, we want the name data from the form. I mean, you now need to tell it which field it's going into in our list. So I'll click on the little lightning bolt here. Now, this is short for dynamic content. When we click on that, because we've already connected to the form, it's pulled out the different fields that are in my form. So the name, we've got the responders, enter your name. Here we go. So I'm going to put that into the name field. I'm going to click on email, and I'm going to pop their email into the email field. The department value, and you'll see here, it loads the choices. Don't pick any of those. Choose a custom value, and then pick the dynamic content button again. And this time we're going to say, which department do you require? And then finally, on the inquiry field, we're going to drop in your inquiry. Now, we said we'd come back to title again. I'm actually, to make sure we get individual responses in our list, unique entries, I'm going to put the submission time. So I'm going to type in the word submitted and put a space, hit my dynamic content button, and I'm going to pick the submission time. Okay, I've now got my automation built. It's as simple as that. Do you want to see it working? Well, let's save it first of all. Let's hit save. It takes a second to save. Here we go. So it says we recommend you test it. So we hit the test button inside Power Automate and choose manually and test. And now the automation will just sit here spinning. Let's go back to our contact form and go collect responses. What I want to do is copy the link. Copy the link. Here we are, back to here. So I'm going to submit another response. So we're going to put in here, let's pick a random name. Harry Smiles. His email is harry@gmail.com. Which department do you require? And I'm going to say sales. What's your inquiry? Please send me your latest brochure. Okay, pardon the spelling mistakes. Submit. So the form's been submitted. And if I click back here to Power Automate, you would have seen, if I was faster, that the ticks appear in a sequence. And as far as Power Automate's concerned, everything works smoothly. So let's go back to our list and see if that is actually the case. So we go back to operations here. Let's click on the contact form submissions. And here we are, Harry Smiles, harry@gmail.com. Please send me your latest brochure, complete with spelling mistakes. So the automation automatically put into our list here the entry that came in from the forms. Now, again, as I said earlier, anyone that's got access to this can now see this. And if you had a column on there to say, yep, I've acted on this. So if we could add a column, just put a choice, and we can say action or acted upon, for example. So let's put yes, and we're going to put no. We're going to delete the third choice. So basically now I can manually say, have we actually acted on this particular entry here? So let's edit that. If I sent the copy invoice, I can say yes. So straight away, anyone else that's in here will see that. If I want another column with the person who actually made the action, add the person column, and like so. And we're going to just choose here, person or group. We're not going to allow selection of groups, save. So when I edit that line now, who actually acted on this? Well, down here, I can type in, well, it was me, it was John, like so, or anyone else in my organization's name would appear here. So we can see John acted upon that. So it's a quick way of tracking that data. Now, let's motor on, because what I want to show you now is the email notification part. And we said we'd try and keep these to 30 minutes. So what I want to happen is if someone, go back to my form, if someone picks the option here, support, I want to get an email because I want to make sure the customer gets support quickly and they're not waiting for my help. So let's go back to our automation. And what I'm going to do here, in between these two steps here, get response details and creating the item in lists, I'm going to add what's called another action. So if I go back to the edit mode, I'm going to click the plus button. I'm going to add a condition here. So I'll click action, type the word condition, and that pops up with various options here. So we're going to say, what is the condition? And if I click on condition here, so if the condition, if I click my dynamic content here, if the department they require is equal to, I'm going to put in here the word support, and this is case sensitive. So if you chose in your form, if the options were, if it was support with a lowercase s, I would need to do that here inside automate. If it's equal to support, then if that's true, I'm going to go plus here, add another action, and I'm going to type in the word notify, send me an email notification, like so. If it's not, then just ignore it and carry on and create the item. So let's do the same thing again. I'm going to save my automation. Okay, I need to actually complete the email notification information. So support needed is the subject of the email, and the body of the email will tell me that if I click on my dynamic content, put the person's name in, has requested support, you can contact them at, and let's put in their email address, like so. So we've picked up the name and the email address. Now let's click save. There we go. So this time I'm going to go into test again. If I don't need to do test, let's just watch this happen. Let's go into my form. This time we're going to do Fred, and his email is fred@hotmail.com, and he needs support. And what's the name? I need help with the widget. Okay, submit. So my response has now been saved. And if I go back to my SharePoint site, let's minimize a few things here. Back to my SharePoint site, click on the contact form submissions here. May take a second to come through. Here we go. So Fred, I need help with the widget. And he chose the option support. And there's the color code there. Let's see if I got the email notification. So I'm just going to open up Outlook here. And we'll see if this actually worked. Oh, look at this. Support needed. Fred has requested support. You can contact him at fred@hotmail.com. So straight away, we can jump onto Fred's request and help him out quickly so he gets the best possible customer service. So let me stop my screen share now. Okay, we're back. That's excellent. So was that easy? It was a bit of a rush, wasn't it? But I hope you found that step-by-step demonstration and explanation quite useful. Now, if you missed any of the steps, that we talked about, or comments, you'll be able to rewatch this demonstration, this Lunch and Learn episode, via our website at pstechnology.co.uk. You'll also be able to find it at SharePoint and at YouTube as well. So the link to SharePoint, if you just visit youtube.com, and you can then search for the little @ symbol, PS Tech MSP. You'll find our channel there where you can subscribe, you can like videos, you can comment as well. That'll be useful for us. Or if you visit our website, pstechnology.co.uk, then you're under the resources and video section, you'll find all the previous recordings there as well. Now, in our next session, we're going to keep the Lunch and Learn topics on practical and useful points. We're going to be discussing how to better use templates in the Microsoft Office apps. You don't want to miss this. We regularly come across end users who don't know how to use templates, and you end up with a real mishmash of things. Purpose of templates, it will help you to standardize document layouts across your business, and that improves, again, the customer experience that your customers get. So if you have any questions about what you've seen today or anything else, feel free to reach out to us here at PS Tech. There's a live chat on our website, and there's a contact form there too. So from all of the team here at PS Tech, I want to take this opportunity to wish you all a very good rest of November and December, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. So take care.